Ivy League school or normal school for PA school. Doesn't really matter. This person says, "Hi Boris, I'm an accepted applicant at both Weill Cornell, I don't know how to pronounce it, but at Cornell University in New York City and Albany Med. I am a Southern California resident and I will be moving there on my own." One, Cornell is more tuition, it's more expensive. Two, it's much more expensive to live in New York City than it is in Albany. Two, the basic question is it worth it? Is it worth paying more tuition and more for cost of living to go to a more prestigious program such as Cornell rather than a more normal program such as Albany? You're going to get a degree in physician assistant studies in both colleges. You're going to be eligible to take the PANCE in both colleges. You're going to be a practicing PA as long as you pass both of those things after going to both colleges. So does it really matter? Does the name Cornell really hold that much weight? Is the quality of the education that much better that you should spend that extra money to, for cost of living and also for tuition? Is that worth it? I'm going to say yes, but it depends what you really want for your life. Okay? And also a gigantic caveat. I'm going to start with the caveat first, because it could kind of undo all of the advice that I'm giving. The caveat is, just because a school is prestigious does not mean that the quality of the education at that school at this time is better than another program, okay? Quality of faculty, quality of the program altogether fluctuate year to year, but primarily more like every 5 to 10 years, because faculty turnover. Let's say there's a program that has a very fantastic physician or physician assistant teaching there, and then that person retires or that person goes to do something else. And now the quality of that program goes way downhill, potentially, depending on who's going to fill that person's shoes. If it's somebody that is just fantastic and fills that person's shoes and they make the curriculum even better, okay, sweet. But that may also go in the opposite direction where somebody who takes that person's place is way worse, objectively. So just because it's Cornell or just because it's Columbia, Harvard, whatever, you name it, Duke, doesn't mean that that program is better than another program, and it doesn't mean that that program is better than another program this year. You just don't know behind the scenes. Okay, so that's one. It's kind of a crapshoot unless you really are in the know whether or not that program is good and whether or not that program is good this year. Okay, so that's a huge thing to consider. So the main piece of advice that's probably applicable to both groups of people and to anybody in this position would be just do what's practical, do what's cheaper, and or do just what you prefer. Do you prefer to live in Albany, or do you just really love the idea of living in New York City and you think you would enjoy that, and also you think that you might want to stay in New York City versus Albany? Because that's one thing that a lot of people don't consider is getting your first job as a new grad PA is by far the easiest thing to do if you stay in the city that you did all your rotations in. So most likely, Cornell is going to have at least a good chunk of their rotations in New York City. So you're going to be making those connections. You're going to be a rotation student, and it's going to be much easier for you to get a job in New York City than if you were, trying to go back to California. You could, it's possible, but it's much easier to get a job where you did your rotations and where your school is located and well known. So that's one thing to consider. Do you want to live in New York City afterwards? Do you want to live in Albany afterwards? Or is your plan, no matter what, take the education and go back to California, in which case it kind of doesn't matter. Or it might because the school is more prestigious, but less so, okay? So practically, which of the cities do you want to live in? If it's one of them more than the other, consider going to that school, okay? So that's another thing. Also, physician assistant salaries in New York City are probably higher than they are in Albany, probably. So you might be able to make all that tuition money back in a couple years of practice if you live, within your means rather cheaply, which it is possible to do in New York City, believe it or not. So that's another thing to consider is where do you want to practice at least the first year or two after graduating. After that, you have experience. You can literally, it's a blank check. You can just go anywhere in the country. They'll take you. But while you're a new grad, it's a whole lot harder to get a job. So where do you want to work? I'm going to stop beating that dead horse. The next thing after those first 2 points, if that didn't convince you and that helped you make a decision, is just straight up the name Cornell or something else, Ivy League, or the PA community, Duke. Obviously, the first program, the best program, the most prestigious program is Duke. So if you're a PA student at Duke, you get your education from Duke, that's going to say some things about you compared to getting it from essentially almost any other program, right? So how much does that name carry weight? My experience is it depends how ambitious you are. Now, I went to an Ivy League school for post-bac, Cornell, and that's it. My physician assistant degree was from a pretty well-established, very well-known program in the area, in Syracuse, Lemoyne College. But is it Ivy League? No. Is it super duper prestigious? In the area, yeah. Outside of the area, no. So does it really matter? Not really. Not really. If you play your cards right, you get a good job, you're a decent employee, you keep moving up the ladder, you keep learning things, you're ambitious. It kind of doesn't matter because you're still going to have that PAC, you're still going to be able to work in the field, you're still going to be eligible for fellowships if you really want to go that direction. It really kind of doesn't matter. The only time it might matter is if you're really trying to do something beyond being just kind of a typical physician assistant. If you want just a more or less typical physician assistant job in the hospital, hospitalist, ER, surgery team, professor at a program, more or less anywhere you get your PA degree, anywhere you get your PAC, you get your qualifications, you get some decent experience, you're more or less going to be fine. It kind of doesn't matter where you go to school. The only time it really matters is if you're very ambitious and you want to be on like a super high-speed team, some really prestigious surgical team or something. You want to work in a very prestigious hospital or a very prestigious floor of that hospital, or much more so, if you're an entrepreneur, you want to start your own business, you want to kind of move up the ladder, and that's why I said typical PA career, because if you want something that's kind of beyond that, you want to be a director, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to network with other people that are business owners, that are something kind of outside the scope of a PA, something a little bit different, then that name might carry weight. Okay, how do I know? Something that happened recently. I'm obviously not going to give a lot of information, but I was networking, kind of impromptu. It was just at the gym. But I was networking. I was talking to, a guy that's pretty high up in a company of some sort. I didn't really ask a whole lot of questions, but we connected on LinkedIn. And he saw that I went to Cornell. It was just for a couple of semesters. It was for a post-bac, but it doesn't matter. Cornell is on my resume. Cornell is on my LinkedIn. I did go there. I did get a very good GPA there. So that does say something because he also went to Cornell. He got an MBA or some sort of a business, master's thing there. And so boom, that's a connection. So we started talking about something. We connected on LinkedIn and boom, what is the first thing he sees? Hey, both went to Cornell. And he's like, okay, interesting. Maybe I'll take a look at this guy twice, as opposed to maybe I would have just blown him off, potentially, right? And then he connected me with one of his people that he knows, and then that led to potential business opportunities. Did that go anywhere? Maybe, maybe not, but that led to opportunities. So the name Cornell, in your case, or any kind of Ivy League school or prestigious program that has national recognition, so in Syracuse, upstate New York, everybody knows what Lemoyne is, especially in the medical field for PAs. They know that it's a program been around for 20 plus years. They produce high quality PAs. People know. But if you go to frickin' Texas, no one's going to know what Lemoyne is, but they are going to know what Cornell is. So down here in North Carolina, nobody knows Lemoyne. Nobody knows the school I went to PA school at, but they know the top, the 10 Ivy League schools, right? Everybody knows those. Every single person in the country knows those. So for networking, for more high level stuff, if you're super ambitious, yes, it does carry weight that you have that on your resume. Hey, I went to grad school at Cornell. That matters. But if you're not super ambitious, you want to, not to say that you're not ambitious, but if you want to have a more normal career, have a family, have a more normal life, you don't want to be super ambitious and do just crazy stuff that's high risk and build businesses and stuff like that, then it kind of honestly doesn't matter. Do what's right for you. But those are some things to consider. Oh, and also, so you know I'm not lying. Here you go. Lemoyne, Cornell.